Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the instant match reaction. Newcastle United 1, Everton 0 at St James's Park last night. Frank Lampard's third straight Premier League defeat in what was for me Everton's worst performance of the season. I was originally meant to do this video last night because obviously we're going to have the game review to this game a little bit later on today because we play obviously Crystal Palace on Saturday. But by the time I'd got home last night and walked through my door at 2 o'clock in the morning and still pondering why Neil Maupay had the wrong coloured socks on, and you know what? I thought after everything we went through last season, with the relegation battle and the constant, defeats in games that we shouldn't have been losing and the lack of any real intensity and the lack of any real desire and the lack of any real passion and fight from the players, I thought that Everton had taken every single bit of frustration and anger and upset and anything like that out of me, towards the back end of last season. Don't get me wrong, I've been annoyed at results this season. I've been a little bit upset. I've been a little bit blasé about a couple of games, and I've been, very happy about the 2 wins. But I didn't quite think Everton could wind me up in the same way as what they did on multiple occasions last season, because I felt like all of that negative emotion and that frustration and that, wind up and all of that had left me. I thought I wouldn't get like that again, because whatever happens, it can't be as bad as what it was last season. But, well, I was wrong. I had to turn my phone off yesterday. After the game, I had to turn my phone off. I'd done the tweets on our Twitter account, with a little sort of review of the game, and then I had to turn my phone off and just sit there staring into literal space, because you are literally in space in St James's Park for a good 20 minutes, half an hour, before I could, sort of reevaluate things and put my phone back on and calm down a little bit, because I was absolutely furious last night. That was, for me, the worst performance of the season by some stretch. Beats Aston Villa, beats Nottingham Forest, beats any game that we've lost this season. We've just come off the back of 2 defeats in 2 games that you look at and you're disappointed by, and you're frustrated by. And we didn't have a single shot on target against Spurs, but we had a couple of shots that, had they have gone in, it would have been a different game. And we weren't great against Manchester United, but it's Manchester United, and they were in a little bit of a good run of form. There was absolutely no excuse about yesterday. Newcastle aren't a very good team whatsoever. I don't care how much money they've got. I don't care how good of a run of form they're in. I don't care how they've only lost 1 home game in 15 years. I don't care about how much money they've signed in the summer. They are not a very good team, and they showed that yesterday. They're not a very good team. And what Everton showed yesterday were worrying signs. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that we should be worried, and I'm not sitting here by any sense of the imagination and saying that we'll struggle to stay in the division again this season, because I think a lot of things have changed since last season, and I think Everton improved greatly since last season. But one thing that we've spoken about so candidly over the last couple of weeks as changing from last season was the desire, the mentality, the commitment. Even in the defeats that we've had, we've shown a willingness to try and get in the game and try and win the game, or a battle and a fight and a commitment. Yesterday was really, really worrying, because it was a massive throwback to the performances of last season, where Everton would go 1-0 down, have a little go for 10-15 minutes, and then when things didn't go our way, would just, our heads would drop and we wouldn't be arsed. And that's exactly how yesterday went. I didn't think it could get much worse than the first half. We had a period of 10-15 minutes where we were relatively in control. We were moving the ball around well. Garner Gay was throwing in challenges. Onana was putting himself about, getting fouled left, right and centre. But then after that 10 or 15 minute spell, we just seemed to completely collapse. Now, I don't know what was going on with Amadou Onana. I don't know whether he was carrying a knock from one of the 15 challenges that was put in on him. Maybe one from Joe Linton, which should have seen him sent off. The referee, by the way, yesterday was an absolute embarrassment. He should be waking up this morning, looking in the mirror and feeling embarrassed about his performance. Absolutely embarrassed. He should hang his head in shame, because he was a disgrace yesterday. But, after 10 or 15 minutes, Onana wasn't running for balls that he'd usually run for. Damari Gray seemed half-arsed. Anthony Gordon was absolutely abysmal. And we completely fell to bits after that. And, we'll divulge a little bit more into it in a bit more detail in a moment. But, you go 1-0 down and you come out in the second half and you think, well, it can't be much worse than what that was. Because, effectively, we've absolutely, we've shit ourselves when Newcastle have put a bit of pressure on us, and we've crumbled under the pressure. And then we come out in the second half and it was worse. And it wasn't worse because Newcastle stepped it up. We could sit here when we talked about the Spurs game and said, well, okay, we were decent in the first half. We weren't very good in the second half. A big part of that was the fact that Spurs made the change, brought Richarlison off, brought Basuma off, and Spurs stepped their foot on the pedal a little bit. Everton still could have done much better by avoiding the individual mistakes, but Spurs did put their foot on the pedal a little bit more. Newcastle didn't in the second half. In fact, it was the opposite. Newcastle took their foot off the pedal and said, yeah, have a go. You come at us. You create chances against us. And what was really, really, really worrying is I sat there in St James's Park yesterday and I turned round to my brother who I was with, and on the 60th minute, so half an hour to go in a game of football, bearing in mind Newcastle weren't interested about being in the game at this point. They weren't interested in about attacking. They weren't interested in about getting at us. They weren't interested in having a positive impact on the game at that point. And I turned around and said to my brother, we don't get back in this. And with 15 minutes to go, I turned around to him and said, if this is going to end, if a team is going to score here, it will be Newcastle and it will end 2-0. And that was because we had a brief spell, and I mean brief, of 5 or 10 minutes at the start of the second half where, okay, we got at them a little bit. We had a couple of half chances. Damari Gray does well in one sense to put the ball across the middle, and Alex Iwobi, I don't know what he's trying to do, but he tries to side foot it in while standing with his back towards the goal. I don't know. We had one or two other half chances in the game. By the way, Iwobi doesn't even get a shot off. We had one shot in the whole game. One shot in the whole game. No shots on target. That's 2 consecutive games we've had no shots on target. But you know what? That's not even the worrying stat for me. The worrying stat isn't that we didn't have a shot on target yesterday and that we didn't have a shot on target against Spurs. The worrying thing for me yesterday is, you know what? It's not that we didn't have a shot on target. It's not even that we didn't look like we were going to have a shot on target. The worrying thing for me is it didn't look like they wanted to have a shot on target yesterday. As I said, we had a spell of 5 or 10 minutes at the start of the second half where we pushed a little bit. But after that, it was like a throwback to those games last season where everybody just sort of went, well, we're not very good and we're not going to get back in this game, so we'll just walk around and waltz around. And all of a sudden, for the rest of the second half, every time we had the ball, which was the majority of the time, it was sideways and backwards passes. It was like we were winning the game 1-0. It was like we were defending a lead. We're defending corners with 10 minutes to go with everybody in the box. Why? Why are we defending corners with 10 minutes to go with every single Everton player in the opposition box? Why aren't we leaving one up front to counter-attack? Why aren't we leaving someone up there to give them something to worry about? Why are we defending corners with everybody in the opposition box when we're losing a game 1-0? Why? Why are we doing that? I think Frank got it wrong yesterday. I think it was very, 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 very evident 10 minutes into the second half that there needed to be a change of system, not just a change of personnel, not just bring Mobe on for Calvert-Lewin and replace one striker who had no service and wasn't very good with another striker who had no service and wasn't very good. The only difference being that Mobe was wearing the wrong fucking coloured socks, which shouldn't have pissed me off as much as it did, but it really, really did piss me off. Don't just bring a midfielder off and put James Garner on and expect something to change in the same system. There needed to be a change of system. There needed to be an impetus. There needed to be an attacking threat. And there wasn't yesterday. There absolutely wasn't. There was none of that. Anthony Gordon was abysmal. absolutely abysmal. And I don't care if people like him, and I don't care if people can say, oh, he's all right to have one bad game. Cam, don't get on his back too much. That was his worst game he's put in an Everton shirt, and that's saying something because he's put some bad performances in this season. He really, really has. Anthony Gordon was absolutely horrific. I mean, we're going to do the player ratings after this live stream. They've packed with it full of live streams today. If you were interested, by the way, we've got this one, we've got the player rating straight after, and then we're going to have the game review about 5 o'clock. But Anthony Gordon was absolutely, he was terrible yesterday. He was worryingly terrible, in fact. Demarai Gray wasn't much better. Okay, he found himself in a bit more space, and he had one chance to cross the ball, which was a good cross into the box, which, we should have done better with. But he's at fault for the goal by just standing around with effectively his hands in his pockets, watching Miguel Almiron stand on the edge of the box. There was a number of times when he wasn't tracking back, and it was really, really, really weird because Everton went from, in the first half, again, maybe not having a lot of the ball and maybe not being the team that were necessarily pushing, but we were in the game every time they got the ball. We were winning it back. Garner was in there. Onana was in there. We were breaking the play up. Iwobi was getting about. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, players just stopped doing it. Onana stopped running and was jogging. Iwobi stopped running and was not in the right areas. Garner all of a sudden wasn't winning the challenges. I thought both fullbacks were abysmal. I thought Vitaly Mykolenko was abysmal yesterday. Absolutely abysmal. I mean, we talk about him as a defensive left back, and as somebody that we know and we understand doesn't bring much going forward and doesn't offer much going forward, and that is part and parcel of Vitaly Mykolenko, is that you accept his lack of forward ability for in exchange for a good solid defender. He wasn't a good solid defender yesterday. He was woeful, absolutely woeful. He got ripped to bits on multiple occasions by that Newcastle forward line. Same with Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman got done about 6 times in the opening 15 minutes by I can't remember who it was on that left hand side, but just knocked the ball past them and ran past them. Seamus can't play on Saturday. It's as simple as that. Seamus can't play on Saturday. I know Mason Holgate isn't the be all and end all, and I know he's not a natural right back, but we at least need somebody in there who's going to have the pace to keep up with a player if they try and knock it past them. Because Seamus Coleman was just left for dead on so many occasions yesterday. I said it on Twitter, and I'll say it again. Barring the two centre halves, I think everybody was abysmal yesterday. Everybody, and Cody's passing wasn't great either. Tarkowski I thought was very good, but other than that, everybody was abysmal. I thought Onana, after 10 minutes, completely give up for whatever reason, whether he was carrying a knock, whether he was struggling, whatever reason it was. And he got a little bit better in the second half, but for that last half an hour, 25 minutes of the first half, he may as well have been stood next to us. The forward line were woeful again. Dom wasn't very good. Now, he didn't have much service, but he was offside 2 or 3 times when he should never have been offside. It's amateur. It's amateur for the Premier League footballer to be caught offside the amount of times he was. Even his touches when the ball come into him, he wasn't particularly keeping it close to him. He did a couple of times where he let it bounce off him and he was throwing himself about too much. And listen, don't get me wrong, I think there were multiple times we should have had free kicks when we weren't giving them. In fact, I think their goal comes from a foul on Amadou Onana. But you knew within 10 minutes that this referee wasn't capable of sensibly refereeing a game of football. You knew he was an absolute dickhead from the first 15 minutes. So don't give him a reason to, allow play to go on. Don't fall over in the box. Don't fall over when you've got the ball at your feet, because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. And yeah, I just thought the mentality, I thought the attitude, I thought the desire was off yesterday. And look, some people might put that down to tiredness. Some people might put that down to frustration. I don't really care. 6,000 or 3,000 or however many thousand Evertonians travelled, for a 4-hour journey to Newcastle on a Wednesday night. And, most of whom will have not got home till early hours in the morning. I walked through my door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they had the absolute backbone, well, the lack of backbone to turn up and put that performance in. It's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. And that's why that's the worst of the season. We were bad against Villa, but we had to go. We showed signs. We were bad against Forest, but we got back at the end and we showed that fight and that never give up attitude. Yesterday, it was like they didn't want to be there. It was like, get this over and done with and let's move on. And that is worrying, because that was the mentality in a lot of games last season. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think Everton will be near a relegation battle this season. I don't think Everton will be near the relegation zone. I don't think that will be a worry come the end of the season. And that's because I've seen enough performances of players fighting and working hard. And even if they don't necessarily go our way, there's that desire, there's that battle, there's that, there's all of the right signs to suggest that, it will be okay. However, if Everton were to perform like they did yesterday, we will 100% be in a relegation battle this season. Because it was woeful. And the big worry now is, where do goals come from? Where do chances come from? Where do we go from here? I think Frank's got to change something. I really, really do. I think he's got to change something on Saturday. I don't think he can go with the same, sort of system. I don't think he can go with the same formation, because it's not working. It's not working, and there's just not enough creativity. And it's almost at the point now where Everton go 1-0 down. Listen, yesterday was let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say yesterday was a one-off example of a lack of fight, a lack of desire, a lack of commitment. A one-off example of the type of performances we were used to seeing last season, and that's fine. But even in the games where we've gone 1-0 down and we've showed fight and we've showed commitment and we've showed desire and we've showed all of that, barring Southampton, in the majority of those games, whether it be Tottenham, even when we went 2-1 down against Man United, whether it be Villa, etc., etc., we, it's not that we've shown a lack of fight, it's not that we've shown a lack of desire, it's not that we've shown a lack of effort, but there is one common denominator, and that is we've shown a lack of quality. And we are at this point now where if we go 1-0 down, it's almost like, right, let's go home now. Last season, that was because the players didn't have the bollocks or the fight or the commitment or the desire to get back into the game. This season, it's because we haven't got the quality. Last season we had a Brazilian kid who scored 10, 15 goals or whatever it was, 11 goals and got us out of the shit. This season we haven't got him. This season we've got an injury-ridden Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who we've just seen for the first time, since the Premier League season has started. And again, I'm not going to go too much in on Dominic Calvert-Lewin because it was his first Premier League appearance this season. Start this season. But again, for the best part of 60 minutes, he was absent. Neil Mowbray come on and looked atrocious. Listen, I've been quite complimentary of Neil Mowbray since joining Everton. In his performances yesterday, he was atrocious. The wingers were, alright, Damari Gray put one cross in. Alright, Damari Gray worked a bit harder than Anthony Gordon, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Working hard isn't enough. Anthony Gordon was abysmal. And we've got no creator in the midfield. Alex Iwobi's new role is very much a sweeper and pick the ball up and move it, but it's not really a creative role. Amadou Onana's not in a creative area, and Garner Gay isn't, obviously, and I don't really think James Garner is that either. So where do our chances come from? That's the second consecutive game on the bounce we haven't had a shot on target. We had one shot yesterday, and it was a Dominic Calvert-Lewin header in the first half, which he should have done better with. But one shot on target and an entire game of football is beyond a joke. Absolutely beyond a joke. And listen, as I said, Newcastle were poor yesterday. Newcastle were poor. It's as simple as that. They got a goal. They could have had another 2 or 3 in that sort of period of 5 or 10 minutes when they were getting at us and they were attacking us, and we just completely decided to stop working hard. Their goal was poor defending to not get out and attack him, and arguably poor goalkeeping as well by Jordan Pickford. But they had another 2 or 3 chances with Bruno Gomes and Joe Linton, who I think both. Put chances past the post in that period where Everton were just sort of standing around and watching Newcastle play football, which was never, ever, ever good enough. But as I said, for as bad as the first half was, and it was atrocious, the second half was worse, because when you are getting played around by a team, even if they're a team that shouldn't be playing around you in the way that Newcastle did, even if they're a team that aren't particularly great, when you're being played around, you sort of look and you go, listen, they're in better form, or they're a better team, or they've got, their chemistry's better, or whatever. And as bad as it may be, you go, look, they're just better than us. But when a team gives you all of the ball and says, come at them, you've got 45 minutes, come and attack us, and you put a bit of effort in for 5 minutes, and then go, actually, do you know what? Now we're just going to pass this round the back. We're just going to get it to midfield and pass it back. Get it to the left back, pass it back. We're happy to lose 1-0, because that's what it seemed like. And I'm not saying that was the case, and I'm sure that wasn't the case. But it seemed that for a good half an hour in that second half, Everton were just happy to lose the game 1-0. And that's because we've not got enough quality. That's because we've not got enough ability. And that's because we don't have anybody. And I will say this once. If I've said it once, I'll say it again. We don't have anybody in that team that you look at and you think, he's a match winner. And that's the problem. We've improved our defence massively. We've improved our midfield to an extent massively. But we don't have anybody in that team that you look at and you go, he's the match winner. He is going to be the difference between us winning and losing this game today. You don't have anybody like that. And whilst we haven't got anybody like that, where do the wins come from? That is my issue. But yeah, yesterday was absolutely atrocious. Barmy says, poor Scrappy game, 5 minute spell from the goal and a couple of random chances was all Newcastle offered. Everton bossed the first 20 minutes of the second half, but fine off it. But Everton bossed the first 20 minutes of the second half and then should have understood, like, Newcastle aren't here to get a second goal. They're not here they're here to try and defend this win, to try and defend this lead. So let's get at them and let's put pressure on them. And we didn't. And again, listen, Frank might be looking at it saying, well, what options have I got? What am I meant to do? Am I meant to bring on? Who's going to change the game? But just try something. Don't make like-for-like substitutions. Stop, change the formation. Put Tom up with Mopey and see what they can do together. It was like an acceptance yesterday, and that's not good enough. That's not good enough. It's as simple as that. I thought Iwobi was off it. Eugene says, who do you drop in Everton's first team when Nathan Patterson comes back from injury? Seamus Coleman, without a doubt. I would drop Seamus Coleman now. Never mind when Nathan Patterson comes back from injury. The midfield, as I said, didn't look themselves. Iwobi didn't look himself. Garner was good in the first half, but then, again, very quiet in the second half. I thought Onana, for the last 20 minutes of the first half, was really, really poor. The forward line, as I said, were useless. The fullbacks, I thought, was shocking. And other than that, I thought both centre-halves and the goalkeeper done okay, but Jordan Pickford didn't have anything really to deal with other than the goal, and I haven't seen it back, but, I'm hearing people say he should have done better for the goal. But it's another defeat. It's 3 on the bounce. Where do we go from here? Well, we go to Goodison Park on Saturday, and we have to beat Crystal Palace. I don't like sitting here saying it's a must-win game because we're, only in October and there's a World Cup break and, it's very, very early days in the season. But for the anxiety, for the stress, for the worry, for the feeling of the, around the fans at the moment, Saturday, is a must-win, an absolute must-win. But the way we played on Wednesday, I can't see us winning it. But if we play like we did against, I don't know, West Ham or Southampton, then maybe it'll be a different story. Anyway, we are going to leave it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. We will be back with the play ratings in the next 5 minutes, so don't forget to join us for those. If you watch live, big thank you all for watching. Really, really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. That would mean a massive amount to me. Another defeat, but more worryingly for me, a really, really, really bad performance by Everton. But we move on. Big thank you all for watching, and we'll see you later.